Today, President Yeltsin signed a decree to create a Russian Ministry of Defense. Armenia and Azerbaijan sought resolution of the conflict through international mediation. A state of emergency was declared in Pridnestrovye in order to free up entry and exit from the region. A session of the Supreme Soviet in Kazan discussed the question of the March 22nd referendum. Former People's Deputies of the former Union prepare for their Congress. Good evening. Today, President Yeltsin signed a decree to form a Russian Ministry of Defense. The President will temporarily be acting as the Minister of Defense. Some units of the Unified Command of the CIS will include Russian units. Today, an official Russian government delegation headed to the CIS countries to discuss the state of Russian troops on the status of Russian troops on territory. Today in Pridnestrovye, local authorities introduced a curfew. There will be a special regime introduced for all citizens with control over the media. All party and movement activities will be ceased. The decree also stated that violators of the curfew, if not residents of Pridnestrovye, will be deported from the Republic. The provisions of the decree also apply to members of the law and order agencies giving moral or actual support to Pridnestrovye. Pursuant to the decree, citizens will undergo body, car, and property searches. All organizations, enterprises, associations, and special work regime will be introduced, according to Itartas. After the ultimatum by the 14th CIS Army Unit to surrender weapons seized in the raids on Army garrisons by the Pridnestrovye Guardsmen, a portion of the weapons and ammunition was returned. Today, the Moldovan government called on Pridnestrovye residents to voluntarily surrender weapons to police organs by 6:00 p.m. tomorrow. Otherwise, the status appeal cites the police will use all means to protect citizens from further banditry. This Moldovan government appeal obviously was influenced by the Pridnestrovye police agency's statement that on March 16th and 17th a number of military acts will be taken by the Moldovan side. Today in Moldova, unfortunately, and to our great disappointment, there is a war. There's a war between the guardsmen and the peaceful population. Under their authority, a bus with peaceful passengers was fired upon. There are many dead and wounded. Still, my colleagues, journalists, and members of the media have reported that there will be police attacks on the peaceful populace located on the left bank. So there aren't many weapons among you. No, there are very few weapons. We don't have enough weapons. For 20 people, maybe. But for 20 people, there are probably 10 rifles. If ordered to attack the populace of the left bank, would you attack them? Would you follow orders? If there were an order to liberate the peaceful population from these bandit units, of course we would. But we would never attack them otherwise. The militia would never attack peaceful populations. One of the major questions discussed by the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of Russia was the situation in Moldova. Negotiations on relations between Russia and Moldova have continued for over a year and a half. However, no documents have been ratified. At the Presidium, both sides admitted they were interested in ratification of documents. However, with the military conflict in Pridnestrovye continuing, members of the Presidium raised a number of questions which are necessary to resolve. One of these is how to resolve the Pridnestrovye problem. Members of the Presidium propose moving up ratification of documents. There are also proposals to form an interparliamentary group between Russia and the Moldovan parliament. The Russian proposal is also to consider a package of proposals concerning citizenship, human rights, immigration, property, and other questions. President of Kazakhstan, Nazarbayev, signed a decree today to create a National Guard. The Guard will be subordinate to the President with volunteers serving in it. In Yurmala, the meeting of the Baltic Council took place. There was an agreement reached to withdraw Soviet troops significantly faster than a 5-year period proposed by Russia. Participants did not resolve questions of liquidating the union deficit. There was an agreement signed in Tehran between the representatives of the Azerbaijan and Armenian on the ceasefire within next weeks. Today, the Azerbaijan town of Shusha Agdam was fired upon. There are 14 dead. The Armenian sources gave information on Armenian villages that were also fired on, according to Interfox. Tomorrow, UN emissary Cyrus Vance will arrive in Baku. We should be showing a clip on Cyrus Vance's visit to Baku with his peacekeeping mission. According to the London Times, in accordance with the peacekeeping efforts, there will be a special peacekeeping mission headed by UN Special Representative Cyrus Vance. Unfortunately, CIS efforts to normalize the situation have thus far shown no results. Characteristically, the rivals are more and more pinning their hopes on the attempts of the international community, represented by the UN and the CSCE, to bring peace to the region. CSCE will be sending delegates headed by a delegation headed by Czechoslovakian Foreign Minister Jens Bermov. One peacekeeping option proposed was a conference which would be supported by attended by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Armenia, along with Iran, Russia, Georgia, Ukraine. Turkey hopes to extend its sphere of influence in the Islamic republics of the former Union. Iran fears a mass influx of refugees from the conflict areas, and the U.S. fears the growing Islam influence in the area. All factors taking place on the backdrop of political instability and economic problems further the unpredictable nature of the geopolitical situation. The latest agreement on the ceasefire reached by Azerbaijan and Armenian representatives in Tehran should bring positive results. However, the clashes continue. Only an agreement on the position of the CIS army in the area still has to be reached. Proposals are to relocate arms upon withdrawal from the two republics, as there has been increasing number of raids on garrisons for arms in Armenia. In Kazan, the Supreme Soviet of Tatarstan discussed a March 22nd referendum on sovereignty, which was labeled illegal by the Russian Constitutional Court. After a 2-hour discussion, the session adopted an agenda with one point characterizing the formation of issues of the referendum. However, this was not reformed. The dispute with Popular Power, the first meeting did not, due to a dispute by Popular Power, several participants did not work with the session. No quorum was formed. However, later a quorum was reached. As a result, the referendum will confirm the declaration of sovereignty. The question of Tatar independence from Russia was not raised. Relationship, therefore, should be based on intergovernmental treaty with few amendments to the resolution adopted. In dodging the Russian Federation objections, the Tatar Supreme Soviet declared de jure its objection that the Russian Constitution not be valid on territory. Fate of the Germans is very important here. Here in Engels in the Saratov region, a referendum on the German question took place. At the Opera Theater downtown, in the voting office located there, residents of the former German autonomy were polled. There are agreements that the city of the question was, do you agree that the city of Engels should join the German Autonomous Republic if it is formed? The head of the referendum, his opinion was one, but there were answers to many questions of workers. On the other hand, the regional Soviet ruled holding the referendum in the theater illegal in that region of the city and entered a protest. However, the lower Soviet Soviet disagreed with the ruling and will take other measures. Other measures will be taken by the executive committee heads, which are justified by the expense of hundreds of thousands of rubles spent to receive this decision. According to the latest information, half of all Engels residents polled answered, 77.8 answered that they disagreed with the formation of a new German autonomous area. Engels is not included in the area of the German Autonomous Republic under the declaration by President Yeltsin. In Sochi and Daugavpils, the meeting of the Russian U.S. government experts with the representatives of the Chechen people ended. As a result, the protocol was signed. What do you have to say about the signed protocol? My reaction as president is positive.